Welcome to the Seven Figure Leaders podcast. This podcast was created to celebrate the success stories of seven-figure business owners, giving them a platform to share their insights and lessons learned in order to inspire other business owners. As well as that, it's an opportunity to build new connections. So if you're a seven-figure business owner or someone who works with seven-figure business owners and you're looking for introductions to potential stakeholders, strategic partners and clients, I'd love to hear from you or have you on as a guest and see if I can help make those connections for you. Just go to synergycfosolutions.co. That's synergycfosolutions.co and click podcast. And there you'll find the link to apply. Today we've got Chris Peace from Peace Recruitment. Welcome, Chris.
Hi, thanks for having me.
No, pleasure to have you. Got there in the end with the opening line. So you've been on a big journey over the last few years. So why don't you give us a bit of a background as to who you are, what you've been doing?
Sure. So after a short career in travel and insurance, I joined one of the UK's worldwide largest recruitment agencies. Did that for 4 years, and then when the recession came, I decided I would set up on my own as a sole trader, specialising in construction, property, engineering, trades, labour, that sort of stuff. And then after a couple of years in my bedroom on my own, I took on my first member of staff. And then after a few years, I had 7 or 8 staff. Then it turned to 15. And now we're at 23, and we're kind of looking at sort of somewhere between 8 million to 10 million kind of turnover as a business specialising in permanent and contract and trades and labour in that area. Been a bit of a journey, ups and downs, lots of bumps in the road for the last 15 years. And then as of last month, I've literally completed an MBO and sold the majority of my shares to the management team who I've been developing over the last few years. So it's it's all just kind of coming to a nice close in that as a recruitment business. But it's been quite a journey for 15 years and one I've enjoyed a lot.
Absolutely. So 15 years from 0 to 8 to 10 million. That's a big journey. So let's start with, let's say, the earlier days when it was just you in your bedroom and getting those first few clients. What was going on at that time?
Well, in the market, everybody was getting made redundant, and everybody thought I was absolutely mental setting up a recruitment business because there was going to be no jobs. But the problem before that was there was so many jobs and not enough candidates. And so it gave me a chance to populate my database with people who were looking for work. And then I could sort the wheat from the chaff and then take them to market when things picked up. And there was still opportunities, even though it was a global recession, there was still opportunities out there, but I was a lot more nimble than my larger competitors, and my overheads were low, and I'd calculate my own personal finances at that point that I could afford to eat beans on toasts and work all the hours that I could to try and prove that my business idea was a good one. But being honest with you, at that moment, I just didn't want to be in a big corporate working twice as hard for half the money and not understanding where the gains were, and with all of my profit that I was able to make going to some shareholders primarily in London. So at that point, I just didn't want to do what I was doing, and I didn't have a long-term vision. But then after I realized there was an opportunity and the clients do want to just work with people they want to work with, I noticed the flow of jobs and opportunities coming to me, and the response was great. And so I thought, I could scale this. And then one thing led to another. So it was really lonely those first few years. So I got a dog, and she got me up in the morning and kept me in a routine with walking at lunchtime. And so those early habits before everybody started talking about loneliness and mental health and stuff like that was, in hindsight, a really good decision. And she's still with me now. She turned 16 this year, so she's hung on to see the MBO. But yeah, that was It was just pure graft and guesswork at the start, and then sort of get some staff in, and then you start having to think about all the grown-up stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can certainly relate to a lot of what you're saying. Obviously having been previously part of the corporate world, working for someone else, not having that freedom, and then leaving, starting your own thing, that loneliness that you feel in the first few years, and then just being at the bottom of that mountain you got ahead of you. So when you had that revelation that you could scale the business, how did what did that look like? And you see a lot of people in any sector really, but recruitment, marketing agencies, well, any sector, that stay around the one person band or a few people, stay below the 300k revenue mark or whatever it is. What was it that made you think that, yeah, we can definitely scale this thing and then ultimately get it to 8 to 10 million?
I would love to say I had like a eureka moment. It wasn't like that. I've always focused on service before sales, relationships before revenue, and people before profit. And my gamble was always, and those pillars still exist today in Peace Recruitment with the size that we are. And my idea was I just need to make the candidates happy and make the clients happy and do a good job and really work hard and everything will work out fine. And so I was just pedal to the metal, and then more and more people wanted to work with me, and I couldn't handle the volume that I was dealing with. And so I just knew I needed an extra pair of hands. I wanted to work with somebody that I got on with, and I wanted to work with somebody I could trust with. So my first hire was really important. And so I worked with somebody I'd worked with before who I was close with. And then that was the same for hire three, hire four, hire five, pretty much. And then at that point, you start running out of people and you need to start thinking about maybe more graduates and different people to fill the seats. And the demand just kept coming in because we hired well and we prioritized them doing a good job. And so it just kind of snowballed. So there wasn't really oh, we can scale this. But then obviously you get this moment where in a business where right at the start, you're frantic and you're stressed and you're busy and you're doing everything. And then you hit this initial sort of brick wall where you need to invest. And that's invest in time or invest in technology or invest in marketing or expertise like a specialist accountant or a business coach or something. And I decided to invest in people to help with the volume. And then, obviously you go on that journey through time, and then you kind of at some point you get to sort of pay back where earnings kick in and you look to sort of upgrade your house and your car and maybe where you go on your holidays and stuff. And then there's another brick wall further down the line that you have to overcome, and that's a lot bigger and thicker to break through. And you need to be prepared for that, and you need different skills when you're on that journey. But no, initially I made it up as I went along, and I hired well with people that I knew were I could trust. And we just focused on being good at what we did. And that was recruitment. And then one thing led to another.
And we'll come on to the walls that you faced in a second. So the actual business model itself, you run me through what it looked like.
What did it look like?
Oh, you went on mute there, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. The business itself, what it looked like, it was just somebody coming in the door I didn't want to disturb. The business itself, what it looked like at the very start.
Yeah, as in the business model. So was it ongoing fees from your clients?
Yeah.
Was it a one-off with a one-off fee?
Initially, it was perm. Initially, it was just perm, so it was one-off because I had very little cash. So to bankroll a contractor who wants 60-day terms end of month was quite difficult because you only need 4 or 5 people on 30 quid an hour doing 40, 50 hours digging roads or designing, and you got 60-day terms, you'll be bankrupt in 6 months. So cash flow was king at the start, and so I needed to do perm, and I could undercut my competitors because I had no overheads and I could do a better I would do a better job on occasion. And so that was how it worked at the start, and then eventually we started building up contractors working for us. Initially, we started off white collar, so it was less workers, so less management and higher profits. So generally, we'd maybe make somewhere between 18 to 20% markup on an hourly rate or day rate, whatever it was on. And then we moved into trades and labor later, which is more like maybe 10 to 15%. And you need more of those individuals out working, and you build that up. And then you need different processes and systems in place to collect timesheets and stuff. So initially it was very much contingent, not headhunting and perm, and then we evolved, and then that's when you're not feast and famine, because perm is you could put 3 people in 1 month and then none in for 2 months, or you could convert 3 people but they're all on 6 months notice, so you could be waiting for your money, and then if somebody walks out the job you have to give them their money back. There's rebates involved. So building up that contractor base was really important because we knew our bills and our dividends were covered every month once we started staggering, and then the perm was the cream on top. And as we added more heads, that just kept getting more cream and more cream and more cream and more contractors. And then we built the business up, and we won. So I think it was 7 years after we started, we won best small agency in Scotland. And then a few years after that, we got best large agency in Scotland as well. So I quite liked that. It was a pat for my ego, winning these awards, and getting some recognition from the judges and things like that in that regard. So yeah, it was, yeah, it sort of evolved.
And was it just Scotland based, all of the work?
Bits and bobs. We did some stuff down in London, but only if we knew the client up here. And we did bits and bobs in other parts of the country, but it was all Scotland primarily. Because the idea was, and our sort of one word position, if you like, if you imagine your positioning as an organization, where your cost is versus, where the service you want to deliver. Obviously, like for example, you've got airlines. You can fly EasyJet or you could fly Emirates. They're both planes. They'll both get you there, hopefully, but one's doing it a different way and charging you a lot more, and one's doing it a different way and charging you a lot less, plus extras on top. And so thinking about the positioning and the cost and how we manifested the business within there was quite important. Yeah.
Okay. Brilliant. And then, so let's go back to that point you mentioned about the walls that you've hit along the way. So from going from a one man band up to a business that's doing 10 million, there are a lot of jumps that you're making in there. But talk to us about the walls that you mentioned, taking your words.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, small businesses, 1, 2 man bands, they could just be like that forever. And you've got a lifestyle business and you can earn good money. And to be honest, my earnings from when I was a sole trader working from home and I was billing and it was all my profit, and the overheads were so low, I wasn't earning that much less than I was with 15, 16 staff, because you need to reinvest and you need to train, and then it's policies for everything. And so it's not for the faint of hearted, growing the business. And actually, I think people think you grow the business, you increase turnover, you increase your EBITDA, and you're going to get more money. It doesn't work like that, because the cash runs out the business so quickly. And, you know, um, Leaders Eat Last, I think, is that the book? Leaders Eat Last. And it's like, you've got to pay your direct costs, you've got to pay your bills, you've got to get your systems in place. And if there's any money left, then you get your dividends. And so it's not a decision I made lightly, albeit I didn't plan it, but I knew there was going to be challenges. And we invested a lot in sort of technology and brand and rebranding. So there's various different hurdles over that time when you kind of outgrow yourself. It was once referred to me when I was speaking to my business coach, and I also in a book that I was reading, where a business can sort of be like a child growing up. Initially, you can poo your nappy and dribble down your chin and get away with stuff that you wouldn't normally, and everyone's going to look after you, your favorite clients, and your mum and dad might bail you out with a wee loan or help you out, and you might get investors and people looking after you. But once you get to a certain age, you don't get away with that anymore. And folk are like, well, you're on your own now. And the contractors and the consultancies that were paying me on invoice, after a couple of years, they're like, yeah, you're 30 days like everybody else now, by the way. And all of a sudden that creates new problems. And then you get almost to puberty, and you're not sure. Am I grungy? I'm into football. Do I like girls? Do I like partying? Do I want to be a study guy? And metaphorically speaking, it's like that as a business. Am I going to scale? Am I going to be big? Am I going to go for these? Am I going to be a headhunter? And you kind of feel a bit lost, and everything's all over the place and everything's changing, and it takes a while. And then eventually you kind of flourish into this, hopefully, young adult that's got all their back teeth and is comfortable in their own skin and knows what's right and what's wrong, and you're willing to hold other people accountable on the same values and ethics that you have. And that takes a while. So it's funny, and it just, for me, it simplifies it. So it's kind of like a business. When you start off, you are like a baby, and then eventually you grow up. And so those hurdles hit not dissimilar as they do if you're going through childhood. You need to walk at certain times, you need to feed yourself, you need to, pick your own clothes, decide what you're going to be like, and then make your decisions as you grow up. And this exact same. So there's probably 3 or 4 hurdles, but I think there's 2 big ones. There's the first one, growing up from a small business. And then there's the big one where you're thinking, right, I want to hit advanced growth, or you can plateau and go stagnant, or you can go into decline. And there's various things you need to do at that point, which includes looking at your revenue streams, looking at maybe your longer term visions, looking at your channels to market, social media, how you get inbound inquiries, standard operating procedures. The list goes on and on and on. And I could bore you to death with all the stuff we put in, but we don't have that much time. So there's a few big hurdles, but it all involves investment of time, technology, branding, money, quite often, or people.
And did you do that yourself as the CEO and founder, or did you have external advice, someone telling you that if you want to aim towards this 10 million target, then this is what you need to think about. If you want to make the business sellable, this is what you need to think about. Or did you kind of just work that out and get inspiration from your competitors?
No, again, I kind of I was doing well, the money was good, but there was a frustration because I wasn't doing the stuff that I was good at, which was being a recruiter. And I was doing bits of that, but I was getting more and more dragged into HR and Excel documents and dealing with the accountant and dealing with the lawyers and processes and paying timesheets and everything. And because you're doing everything, you're the head chef and you're the bottle washer once you get to a certain stage, and then you throw in people management, and then you're still potentially the top biller in terms of fee earner. It's stressful. And at that point, I was like, lost a lot of my hair, got wrinkles, got divorced, unfortunately. So the strain that these things can put on your business and your health is is uh, is significant and not to be taken lightly. But I'm not sure quite that answers your question. I went off on a tangent here.
Yeah, no, you gave a good answer anyway. But I just said, did you get external help, or how did you
Yeah,
kind
that's
of
what I was going to say. So I kind of made a little bit up, and it's really stressful. But the key thing for me at that point was I was introduced to my coach and mentor, who was at that point working through Sherlaw's. And she said, "You've got a great business. Let's look at what you're doing." And she said, "Right, what's the vision? What's the plan?" And I was like, "Well, I was thinking I need to get to this much and this size and this turnover, but we're just kind of enjoying it." And I was still really young. I was 36, 37 at the time. And she said, "Well, let's play a game." And I was like, "Okay." She went, "Let's build a business that you could sell, even if you plan on never ever selling it. Let's play the game." So we played the game, and every month or every quarter or every half year, depending on how much stuff I needed to implement into the business, I we played the game. So we set it all up and we built in revenue chains. We found out where the blockers were, and we tried to think about what we needed to do. So that's a big investment, bringing in a mentor and coach and or a consultant. And that could be in the form of a professional accountant to get your books right, which I did as well. But the individual that I worked with helped me sort of mature as an individual and start thinking a little bit differently and more working on my business rather than in my business. And so that was important, working on the business and almost building a business that I could step away from and I could make myself redundant, because for a long period of time, I would go on holiday and my phone would still be ringing, and you never really ever got to switch off. So I had to build a management team, which again increases your multiplier when it comes to selling and stuff like that. Because if the business is still completely reliant on you, when you get bought and the business is gone, the, they're like, right, well, what are we actually buying here if all the clients know is you and you're completely the epicenter of everything, which is quite weird because you have to start delegating and passing stuff out when you know you're maybe the best at it. But you need to trust your team that they're going to pick up the ball and run with it. And then that was really difficult for me. But it paid dividends in the long run because now they own the business and they're really happy and they're kicking on. So that's exciting for them and for me.
Yeah, really interesting. And you said a few points there that I resonated with. So yeah, it's kind of the route that I go down with my clients, and that whether you want to sell the business or not doesn't really matter. Um, the way you're going to do that is whether you're going to sell the business or hold on to it and work 1 day a week or 5 days a week. The way we're going to kind of start now building that business is going to be exactly the same. Getting those systems, processes in place, reducing the business dependency on you, getting the finance function sorted, and if you decide to sell it in 3 years, great, it'll be worth something. But if you don't and you carry on with the way it is now, fully dependent on you, finances are a bit of a mess. Everything's stored in your head, no systems, no processes. The business isn't worth anything. So if you want to sell it in 3 years, you probably can't anyway. So
And the
yeah,
pain as well. If a competitor does come in and they just want to buy your order book or they want to get you out the market, you need to have all the paperwork there to back up. So you need to really start today with, even if you're on your own, pretend board meetings. What's the challenges? What are we trying to do? Where's the P&L? What does the balance sheet look like? Where's the EBITDA, the dividend certificate? So many people, and then they find themselves, oh, I've got a £2 million offer from a competitor because I'm doing all right. And then they go, right, let me have a look at stuff. And they go, oh, I've got nothing. It's all in my email, or it's all in my phone, or it's in my LinkedIn profile, or whatever. And they go, all right, we're not paying 2 million for it. We'll give you 750 grand. And so
Yeah.
you're in a mess. And so you need to pretend, but that I can't take credit for that. That goes down to my coach and mentor about that mindset switch. And even up until 2 years ago, I was just ticking over, but it was in the mindset that maybe at 45 I wouldn't work in the business as much. But I didn't think that I would be at the stage where I can do what I've done. But it's down to her and to the hard work of the team and a little bit of myself, obviously, that's helped get us to where we are now, which is good. So I'm glad I had that conversation. It was valuable.
Yeah. And it takes a lot to admit that you need that help in the first place, because a lot of business owners, they don't get to that point. They think they can do it all themselves. They keep hold of everything. And they never let it go, and they never make that decision, or never admit that they need a bit of extra support. They don't know what they're doing.
Well, the body keeps score, right? And you can tell, you'll see people stressed out, overweight, drinking too much, smoking too much time away from their family. Something has to give. And for me as well, even when I had loads of people working with me, it was even sometimes lonelier because you had nowhere to go, nobody to speak to. And coming home to a loved one or a friend, you can talk to them for a little bit, but nobody wants to, if they're trying to watch the football, the last thing your pet mate wants to do is hear about how shit your job is or how stressed you are, or because they maybe can't offer you the right advice, but there's people out there that can. And so I was always glad that I could push the pressures up the way. And I always felt relieved after the sort of sessions I had with my coach and mentor, and it kind of control alt delete, right? Stop that, focus on this. This is going to move the dial forward. And that was the difference between coaching the ideas out of me and consulting me and telling me what I needed to do. And that was a really powerful tool that my coach used with me and helped clear the pathway for the development that we had as a business and me as an individual. So yeah, it was the best thing I ever did.
It's like business therapy.
100%. Yeah. But 10 times the price.
Yeah. Well, it's worth it, isn't it? If you're
Yeah,
the MBO.
yeah.
So yeah, moving on to that then. So then you ended up doing an MBO, and that's just gone through. So run us through that process.
So it was actually called a VIMBO because it was vendor, me, initiated management buyout. So not a lot of people, especially young entrepreneurs, cash is really difficult to come by these days, and everything's so expensive, and nobody would really want to remortgage their house and miss out on bonuses for years on years to trickle through shares from an owner who's going to sit there for 5 years while they hand the reins over to you while they disappear off to the golf course. So we were in a lucky situation that were quite cash rich. So I didn't ask my management team to put their hand in their pocket personally or put their own house under risk and this sort of stuff. So I took a chunk out, left them working capital and a relatively quick turnaround debtors book of a significant amount, which gives them stability. They didn't have to refinance or anything at the moment. And then they pay me out over future profits of the business. And the business is trucking on anyway and going great. And so we agreed a time scale that they would pay me X every month. And if you imagine it, like I had 100 beans because I owned 100 business, I've sold them 25 beans on day one, and then they're going to buy 2 beans a month for the next X amount of months. And then eventually those beans are owned by the new management team and they're splitting all the beans, the three of them, 33% each. And they've had to set up a new holding company above to sort of be the financial transaction, which I'm sure you'll know all about with your financial background, to be the holding company above, if you like, that then is the transaction for everything else. But it was all down to relationships. I mean, I'm close with the new owners. I've worked with them for years. I've helped develop them into the owners. They've then took on the mentor that I worked with and learned the same way that I did it. So the continuity for the staff and for the new management team should be the same. So it should be just business as normal, but with improvements because 3 heads are better than one, and new innovation and new ideas. So I'm lucky. It took about 3 or 4 months from first conversation to completion. And there was a couple of pinch points in there where I was looking for X, they were looking to pay Y. The multiplier was this. I wanted my money quicker. They wanted more time to control their cash flow. And you meet in the middle if you're all being fair about it. And I mean, you'll need to ask them in the next podcast or whatever if you're sitting with them, but they seem really happy with it. And as long as the business continues on the upward stream that it has done for the last 15 years, and even if it dipped, they'll still be absolutely comfortable.
Brilliant. Well, congratulations on getting that done. And sounds like a good deal for everyone.
Yeah, do you know what? It feels right for me with what I want to do next. And I think it feels right for them, and it just felt right for the team as well. But it was staggered. I mean, they didn't know it was coming, but I started saying things like, what would you do if I wasn't here? If they were asking me questions, what would you do if I wasn't in the business? Oh, I would probably do this, or I would do that. And I'd speak to that person and maybe try to do this. And I'm like, that's it. That's exactly what I would do. And if maybe they weren't quite there, I would say, you thought about anything else? And it was a slight nuance that I sort of moved from telling them what to do into coaching the ideas out of them. And then when I knew that when I was asking maybe 5 or 10 things, or they stopped coming to me and then they were telling me, by the way, I did this and I did that. I hope that was right. I'm like, that's exactly what you do. Well done. Or I would go and say, did you pay that? They're like, yeah, it was done yesterday, and set up a standing order or whatever. When it stopped needing me to drive it and I was just checking they did it, I realized I'm getting really close to me being redundant. And they were coming up with better ideas than me and adding more value than me, which just wasn't great for my ego because I want to be wanted and I want them to need me. But
Yeah.
it's actually really proud and really happy for them, and it's like cracking on. But it's time for them to spread their wings and do their thing. But there was that nuance, that quite switch from me telling to me asking, and then being comfortable that what they were doing was right. And then they can't make any more mistakes than I have, and you learn from them better than you do from getting it right all the time. And so it's just the right timing, and it's the right thing to do rather than do a trade sale or some sort of consultancy coming in and buying me out, which to be honest would have been more valuable for me, just to get swallowed up by a bigger company to get a few extra 100,000 or whatever. It just didn't seem right to me, and I wanted the legacy to live on, and I want those individuals and those that come after them to potentially benefit from what we've built, which is I'm really proud of, and that's important too. It's got to feel right. So yeah, I'm really happy with it. It's really good.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing. And so what's next?
Well, first, I left school with hardly any qualifications because I don't know. I don't know. I was pretending I was going to be a football player, or I was going to be like chasing the girls too much, and neither of them worked out very well. I can be honest with you. But so I didn't get good qualifications, but I always thought I'm clever. Academia wasn't for me. So I had a niche that I wanted to scratch. So I'm doing a qualification from home, which I need to get like 4 essays written and in before Christmas, which is going to be about 180 hours or something like that of study time. So I'm going to do that. And I've got some coaching qualifications to do as well because I've followed in my coach's footsteps and I've joined Shirlaw's. So I've learned it from one side of the desk for the last 8 years. I'm now going the other side of the desk. So October to Christmas, study. And then January onwards, I'm going to try to win about 8, maybe 10 clients a month, where I'm going to try to empower SME business owners about the methodology that I've learned and pass on the knowledge that I've picked up. But I want to help them. It's not a financial decision now, fortunately for me. I can work with people I want to work with, and I can help the ones that are going to really implement and you know that want the help. It's not a case of, oh, I need to charge this much money because I've got to pay the mortgage. It's not like that. I really want to work with ambitious entrepreneurs that want to, strategically grow or raise funding or exit in the future. And I think I'm still young enough that I can plug into people of that sort of demographic, that I will speak the same language as them, and I can understand technology and the movements and the changes in AI and other stuff that people are doing to try and solve the challenges that are out there in business right now. Because it's hot off the press. I'm not a business coach of 20 years and I'm churning out stuff from a long time ago. It's all really up to date information. So, including managing staff and HR processes and employability, I know that stuff. So, And that information might not stay fresh for long if I don't keep my finger on the pulse. So I want to sign up some eight or 10 clients and work with them monthly or every other month to try and help them the way that I've been helped.
Yeah. And so that's one-on-one or group?
It could be either. I've already had a couple of meetings because I wanted to tee up some pipeline stuff to maybe start in January and just sort of warm it up, because it takes a couple of meetings to get to know them and suss each other out. It's like dating. You don't just go and get married at first sight, although I know some people do. What a terrible program that is. But you want to go on a couple of dates before you decide if you want to take things to the next stage, right? So I'm going to, I will work with CEOs of SMEs, and sort of my sweet spot might be somewhere from 5 to 50 staff, and work with SEO, but help play out their vision and work with them strategically. But then I also want to work with maybe a middle management to help implement the strategy that the CEO or owner has implemented to me, and help embed that in, and the accountability with the staff, and then feedback into the CEO, because that's what I did. I was coached, and then I had my coach my new now management team and the new owners, and that smooth transition. And because we were all communicating in the same way and using the same terminology, it made the planning really easy, which probably helped with the transaction as well, because we're all on the same page.
Absolutely. And so you're going to focus on a niche?
No, I don't think so. My sweet spot, and I can do it standing on my head. And if you give me a P&L, or you give me a balance sheet or a management accounts from a recruitment company, I'll find where the dead bodies are hidden pretty quickly. And it won't just be the numbers where they're out. I'll be able to look at it and challenge and think about what they're doing, about how they're managing their client-based management and communication strategies, and where they're spending tech and stuff like that. So recruitment would be where I would probably add most value. But my first meeting was with a property management company, but I've got experience in that as well, because that's my family business, on my mum and dad and my brother's side. So I've got a lot of exposure to that, and that's how the network came about there. So no, but I think initially my sweet spot will be recruitment businesses, because I'll be able to parachute in. But the challenge there is going to be me not telling them where their problems are, and me having to coach the ideas out of them. But I'm looking forward to that being a change, because when you know something, you're like, that's where the problem is. That doesn't really help them. You're just giving them a fish. You need to give them a fishing rod, right? So not being in tell all the time and asking the right questions will be a bit of a development area for me, I think, because I've been used to being at the helm rather than helping people steer their own ship. So I'm looking forward to it, because I've done recruitment for so long and I can do it standing on my head. I'm looking forward to also getting comfortable being uncomfortable for a little bit in a new area. But I'm buzzing for it. I'm really looking forward to helping people.
Well, it sounds very exciting. So, Chris, for anyone who's interested, who's heard you talking, wants to have another chat, maybe they run a recruitment business or any kind of business, and they're just interested in potentially partnering with you in this next chapter that you're about to start, we'll make it very easy for them to get in touch with you. LinkedIn the best way?
LinkedIn is the best way. Yeah. It's just Chris, and then it's Peace, as in Peace. I think there's only one. I think there's maybe a preacher over in America, and there's an American football player as well, I think, but I'm neither one of them. You'll see from the picture. I'm the wee white bald guy up in Edinburgh.
Brilliant. All right, Chris, well, thanks very much for coming on and sharing everything you shared. I think it's going to be really valuable to the audience, and congratulations on getting your MBO done, and wishing you the best of luck in your next chapter.
No problem. Thanks very much for having me, Tom. Cheers.
Thanks for listening. As I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, this podcast was created to celebrate the success stories of seven-figure business owners, giving them a platform to share their insights and lessons learned in order to inspire other business owners. As well as that, it's an opportunity to build new connections. So if you're a seven-figure business owner or someone who works with seven-figure business owners and you're looking for introductions to potential stakeholders, strategic partners and clients, I'd love to hear from you or have you on as a guest and see if I can help make those connections for you. Just go to synergycfosolutions.co. That's synergycfosolutions.co and click podcast. On that page, you'll find the link to apply.